Please rise. Morning, we're here today as we mourn the passing of Stephen Bernstein, Shlomo ben Yisrael HaKohen. Our tradition tells us that whenever we say the words of Psalms, Tehillim, they escort, King David himself escorts these prayers on high in memory and in the merit of the person we're saying it. And today we will begin by saying some Psalms, first in Hebrew and in English, in memory of Steve. Psalm 1. Asher Yisha Shalai Halach Matas Shoyim v'derech hatoyim lo yamod v'meshav leitzim lo yashav Kim b'seiras adinei chefza yiv'seirosa yegayim v'loyla v'ho yoki tzasala palgim boyim asher pir yayitem bitei v'le yula yibel v'chil asher yasli yatzliach loichein erishoyim kim kamoitz asher titfenu ruach Al kein lo yakum reshem b'mishpat v'chatoyim badas tzadikim ki yodei adinoi derech tzadikim v'derech reshoyim tevein. Happy is the one who has not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor stood in the path of the sinners, nor sat in the company of the scornful. Rather, that one's delight is in the Torah of the Lord, meditating in God's Torah day and night, and will be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, whose leaf will not wither, and whatever that one does prospers. Not so the wicked, who are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked shall not survive judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord loves the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. Psalm 15. Mizmer leDavid Adinoi miyogur balecha miyishkein barkachecha hey lech tamim ufeil tzedek v'dever emes mulvavei leirog al alasheni leosol reirav v'cher polei nosal krevei niv ze b'yein of nimos v'sirei Adinoi yechabed nishba lo rav lo yomir nikaspei leinosan b'neshech v'sheichad al naki leilokach oy say eile lo yim et lielam. A song of David, Lord, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell in your holy mountain, one who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks from truth from the heart, who has no slander on his tongue, nor has done harm to a fellow, nor cast disgrace towards a neighbor, in whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in the awe of the Lord, who swears truthfully even to a personal hurt and never retracts, who does not lend money on interest, nor takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. Mizmer leDavid Adinoi roi leyechzer b'nisteshi abiteni al miminuchis na'aleini nafshi sheviv yancheni b'magli tzedek leman shemoi gam ki yedich b'geitz al-moves lo yirado ki yato imodi shiftecha mishantecha heim v'yinachamuni tarich lefonai shulchan neged tzeiredoi Tishanta v'Hashem enroi shika yisirivaya ach toi v'chesed yirdefuni koyimei chayoi V'shavti b'veis Adonai li'erech yamim. A song of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God makes me lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in the righteous path for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Psalm 121. Shir lamai leises ayinay eleharim eyavinav vayezri ezri me madino yisei shamayim varetz ayit in lamiraglecha yanum shemrecha hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shem Yisrael adinoi shemrecha adinoi tzilcha yadiminecha yem mashemesh leyakek v'reich baloila adinoi yishmarcha mikora yishmeres nafshecha adinoi yishmer teischa v'yecha me'ato v'yadelam. A song to ascend, I lift my eyes to the mountain, from where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, maker of the heaven and earth. God will not let your foot falter, your guardian will not slumber. Behold, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Lord is your guardian, the Lord is your protection by your right side. By day the sun will not harm you, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all evil, the Lord will guard your life, the Lord will guard your going and coming from now and forever. At this point, I'd like to call upon Gary to say a few words.
So I didn't even think or plan on saying anything, and I'm not the greatest speaker in the world, but So anyhow, it's kind of weird because the last few days haven't probably even got that emotional, which of course thought this would be easy to do because on the phone I'm talking no problem, and here we are. But so the first funeral I remember going to was my grandfather, my father's father, probably was the first. And as I look around, it's actually the first one for his grandchildren. And actually, my memory was actually seeing Michael in the back seat, 2 months old, I think, 3 months old. And you know what? And I said my grandfather, oh, he lived a short life, early 60s, but what is there to life? He actually got to see the last important thing. He saw his last grandson being born, right? I think that's his youngest one, right? So, and and the one thing I always remember, my both grandparents of my father died very young, but they always said as young as they died, they lived better than people who'd lived to their 90s. They definitely wasn't financially, didn't have, and never judged people with their money because they spent their last penny. Grandfather was iconic. The way to describe his life was death of a salesman, that was like loosely based on his life. But yet at the end of the day, he raised two great kids, and but so my father, and how do you justify it? There's no way anybody can do a eulogy on anyone's life, 70, 80 years in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 hours, right? So, and especially someone not like me who can't even put a good paragraph together without editing it. But so the only thing I could say was he used to live by the code where, you did something for him, he would do twice for you. So anyhow, and that's sort of how he kind of raised me, and pretty much anything that I have in me came from him. And I was telling this to a few people already, as I looked at his last 10, 15 years, it wasn't so much that he is, people, and most people in this room only knew him for the last 15, 20 years. And I even noticed it the last couple of days when you're sitting Shiva, or in this case, you're really not supposed to do things for yourself. And when you get to a different age, now you depend on people. Now you can't do anything for them. They're supposed to do it for you. And just the little things like, oh, it made me dinner, but I didn't even have, can I have a fork? Like you don't want to ask, or just doing things on your own make you feel helpless, and you'd rather actually be doing things for someone else. And I could see the frustration in his mind, and he had very high standards when it came to friends. And if he was not a political person, that's for sure. If you wronged him, he let you know, or he held a grudge, because he was naive to believe that if you didn't do that for him, he didn't understand it, because I would have did that for that person too. Like, what was the big deal? And he would get mad at people, and it was just because, and also in Jewish law, right, God judges people based on how much you in the effort you give, not on the result. Like, you bring your car to the mechanic and he works on it for 3 weeks, and I worked so hard I couldn't fix it, but you owe me 5,000 because I worked 3 weeks on it. That doesn't work in this world. But if you not too smart and you try to study Torah and you learn 1 page and it took you 3 weeks, you get 10 times more credit than a person who spent 5 minutes, who's smart and things come to them. Every person is judged. And that was sort of his mentality. He would always try to get someone to do something cheaper, and the contractor, and it wouldn't be perfect, but he saw how hard the person worked. And of course, everyone around complaining, why'd you pay, what, this guy, don't pay him. And he's like, no, he worked hard. That was the way he judged person, how they how they were, not how efficient they were or how good they were. But I'm just gonna mumble on because, like I said, I wasn't prepared. But you guys come over and we could share plenty of stories, and that's, I think, the best is maybe at Shiver. Anyway, you're all welcome. But thank you.
Okay, hello. As Michelle told me the other day, he loved me. I was his little brother. Well, he certainly was my big brother, both in stature and height. And he had that 5 years on me that it's hard to catch up. But I just spoke to him recently on the phone. He had his plans about where he was going to go and with the houses and all that. And I said, we're traveling. And one of the last words, you got to be lucky. He told me you got to be lucky. Okay. And just to follow up on Gary's story with the young child with my father, with his grandchild, that was Michael's bris. And I got it on video, whatever. I think probably thanks to Harvey doing it, even though the Moyle said, you can't do this. But anyway, my father said, such a smart boy. I don't know if you cried at the time or whatever, but he said, such a smart boy. And he certainly was right. Anyway, I'm going to tell you something. I told others outside, I hold on to my memories, and this is a watch that my brother gave me. It's still working. Natalie and Steve. And I also have my wallet. For those that haven't seen it, it's not relevant, but to me, it's relevant. It was a $20 bill given to me by my brother and Natalie for my 20th birthday. And I cherished things that, and this is the handwritten note on a $20 bill. I guess I was 20 years old. Anyway, it's much more than $20 to me. Okay, so I had some words that I wanted to say, and there were some random things. I just took notes, whatever flash things. I don't have anything written. I'm just going to go over some highlights of my brother's life. And thank you to my son. I think the media family, anybody that needs to see him, there's a lot of pictures that I just got. Half of them I didn't know about. Between me and my brother at all the occasions, thanks to Brian. Okay, my brother, Stephen Bob Bernstein. Oh, I was amazed. My son, did you guys see that? I didn't even know about this. The news that my brother was born in Pampa, Texas, that I always knew. My father was in the war down in Texas. That's not why I root for the Texas Longhorns. But the point being, there's a newspaper that they put in, I guess, while he was in the military, and there was one proud birth of Stephen Bernstein. Anyway, okay. In no particular order, because these are just a lot of thoughts. My brother liked to do a lot of track. He was an athlete in his heyday when he was young. And he was on the, I guess he went to Printing High School, for those not familiar, in Manhattan. And he liked to run, I think it was in Van Cortlandt Park and others. And he was doing track and field, but more or less running track. And He got me back in the days interested in the, on television wide world, the Warner mile, how do you pronounce it? The Warner mile, the 4-minute mile had to be broken at, the stars. He was into track and field and got me interested. Okay, I'll never forget Patches, the dog. I know that I don't know if he met you there, but my brother liked to go to the 92nd Street Y. And that leads into the fact that he was a dancer. And back in the day, at our age, you want to talk about American Bandstand or whatever, but we did songs, dancing like, it was called the slop. If there's an old timer in there, you remember doing the slop? I think that preceded doing the twist and all that thing. And he would show me I didn't get to go to 96, but he would show me how good he was at doing splits. And those are the days when we had shark skin suits, like iridescent. But anyway, I'll never forget the house on 32nd Avenue that you guys lived in, amongst some of your travels. That house in particular, with all the pennies in the wall, pennies in heaven. Okay, now, I guess maybe I should have said this. I don't know, like a lot of times at funerals, I don't know about our religion, whatever, but we can make this a celebration of his life as compared to just a funeral. And he's on to bigger and better things. I'm going to use the word l'chaim, to life, l'chaim. He's not over with. He's first joining my parents in dancing in heaven. He's been loved and they've been waiting. Anyway, my brother liked to play stickball. Back in the days, we played stickball. 5 years older than me, he could never catch up to me. He could hit that ball. We used to have the sewer and he could hit long and far, but we used to play sports in the bedroom, all the grandchildren that get hurt when you play with each other. And I certainly they're not here now, but I took a few stitches in my forehead playing in my bedroom. I got a granddaughter that lost 2 of her teeth in the house with some of the fooling around and the falling up. But I took a stitch in the head we played like, you get on your all fours and tackle, get past me in football. Anyway, of course, baseball cards. Gary, family, you guys loved it. It's still, I got grandchildren that are totally into it now, like it's their second nature now. But anyway, baseball, and my brother Steve knew about that. My grandson at his bar mitzvah was privileged to get a gift from my brother and the family. I'll go on to say he was a famous Yankee. I won't give his name. Hey, Mick, how you doing? Okay, now, my father and I and my brother, I don't know about my mother, but fish tanks. And we had all these fish tanks. I got married, I had like 7 fish tanks. But I'll never forget how much I learned, how to see how the bubble nests are made and how the fishes really populate, not just buying the guppies and they're all pregnant and they're giving babies, but there's a lot to learn about fish. And we got into the salt water, very delicate. Anyway, this is like when my brother, I was a teenager at the time. And talk about when the neighbors tell you that there's no answer at the door and they're living alone. You go and take that ride and then you see them. And it happens. So we discovered my grandmother in the apartment thanks to a neighbor. The same thing for when accidents happen and neighbors help out. Now, my brother and I, we didn't speak that often. There were some definite occasions, like our birthdays, that we never missed. I'll never forget August 11th. And he knew to call me back. It isn't how many times, it's the quality that you get. It's just strange. He took a twist and he never liked to go to doctors. There were times I was eating with Natalie and Steve and they were in a diner and I would talk about, and he said, "No, I don't like doctors. I don't go to no doctors, you know." But I don't know. I visited him in the hospital, made it through those times, which is good. I'm glad he made it through, and it gave him extended time to see his family grow up. I love him so much. Anyway, I'm going to try to cut this. I think I'm rambling here. And of course, he was a big help to me, my father. We were a team along with him. He took my mother to Atlantic City when I said, "What are you doing?" She wasn't in good shape. My mother had some illnesses that he helped us get through. And he loved everybody's in love with one another, but thank you so much, Steve. I'll never forget you. I love you.
Steve and Natalie, I've got to know them about 15 years ago, right? That many years. When they first started coming on a regular basis to our Chabad house, and always making sure, even at times when he had to go to other errands and other places, he made sure at first that there was a minyan, and only then did he continue on to his travels. But he became part of the fixtures or the furniture, or whatever you want to call it, of a regular there every single week on time and his allocated time, and always with a good word and an opinion on sports, especially. And I remember when I went to their home to put on the mezuzahs, and he showed me so proudly his fish tanks and his baseball card collection and his bats and his all other collections that he had, and especially his bird that he took care of, which was his treat. But Steve was a unique individual in many ways, and very much pertaining to his name and to his identity. His name was Shloima, his Hebrew name, which comes from the word shalom, peace. But he was also a Kohen. And a Kohen, as we know, was given the task to bless the Jewish people. And levarech es amo Yisrael, and the blessing that they say is to bless the Jewish people ba'ahava, with love. Steve had a special place in his heart for every kind of person. He used to tell me his stories in the post office, how he used to get the kids to do jobs for him and to do things, work. Take kids off the street and give them something to do, keep them busy. How he used to help this one get that type of collection where he met the baseball players to get their autographs, and his all different maneuvers that he was able to do to be able to help somebody else, be there for somebody else, and especially for his children. As you all know, he used to wear that baseball cap that said, "Proud Grandpa," or "Don't bother me." Either one of them. But it was all a symbol of who he was, a person that was there for other people, looked out for every person. No person was too low or shallow to be able to talk to them, to help them. Every person was consequential. Every person, he looked at how he can see the best in every individual, even if he disagreed with them, whether it was from sports or politics, but sports was his thing. As Lewis said, when it comes to a time like this, we are struck with a dichotomy. On one hand, we mourn the passing of our loved one, and the laws of Shiva apply, and saying Kaddish, and mourning and sadness sets in. But at the same time, it's a celebration for the soul of the one that passed on. When a person passes on, it means that their soul has accomplished their mission here in this world. Every single one of us comes to this world with a task that we ought to accomplish. But that task can take many years for us to do, and sometimes go through challenging times to accomplish that task. But that task is given to us from day one. And when we look into the person's name and we can see how they reflected back on their life. So when it comes to their time when their soul meets their Creator, we can look back and see the accomplishments of their life. But that's for the soul. King Solomon in his great wisdom says in the book of Proverbs, the living must take to heart. It's not just an occurrence, a sad time where we mourn, but it's about perpetuating the legacy of our loved one. It's about remembering Steve in everything we do. Judaism teaches us that nothing is by coincidence. Everything is by hashgacha pratis, by divine providence. Steve passed away this past Monday, which on the Jewish calendar is the Rosh Hashanah for trees, the 15th of Shvat. Why, out of all things, do we celebrate or make an issue about the Rosh Hashanah for trees? And the Torah tells us in the book of Deuteronomy, Ki Adam eitz hasada, because a person is compared to a tree. And there are many things that we find in a tree that are very like an individual. A tree with strong roots, no wind can knock it down. A tree gives fruits and gives shade to those that enjoy it. So too the human being, when they are well grounded, when they come from good family, when they are given as a child the proper education, no matter what the challenge comes their way, they'll be able to stand up and withstand it. As well as a person has the ability to give fruits, which can literally mean children, but even more so their good deeds and their actions. And just like every fruit has a seedling, and that seedling creates another tree and another fruit, so too every good deed we do creates more fruit and more good deeds. But then there's even something more than that a tree has. Even a tree that doesn't bear fruits, a tree gives shade. And the unique thing about the shade is that it doesn't hurt the tree or affect the tree. And the tree may not even know that it's giving the shade to whoever enjoys from it. So too the human being can give off shade, can help and protect those with them not even knowing that they're giving their protection. Steve was a person who epitomized all these qualities. He was a true tree of life to those people who came in touch with him. Roots, he cared for his family, for his children, his grandchildren. They were everything to him. His wife, his community, his roots, he made sure that they were strong. He was a person who always looked to share with what he had, whether it was wisdom, knowledge, being helpful to any person, inviting them over, hospitality. He would share his fruits, and even more so his shade, even not knowing or knowingly, giving to people in more ways than one. Let us heed to what King Solomon tells us. Let us remember the ways and the behaviors and the actions of Steve, a friend, a father, a grandfather, a brother, and husband, most importantly, in everything he did. And when we continue to remember what he did, but not only remember, to continue to act the way he did, and to be the person he was, he is with us and will be with us in everything we do. Until that time, that we will once again merit, as the prophet Isaiah tells us, Bila hamaves lanetzach, when death will be swallowed into the ground once again. And as Steve is a Kohen, and every single holiday he would stand up in front of the synagogue and give us the blessings of the priestly blessings. He is now on high, giving us all those priestly blessings. And may we merit to accept those blessings and receive those blessings. And that may that bring, as it concludes in the blessings, V'yasem lecha shalom, peace, tranquility, happiness, health for his children, his grandchildren, his friends and family, and most importantly, his wife Natalie. I'm going to ask you all please to rise as we say the memorial prayer. Eile molei rachamim, shoichein b'amiro oyemim, hamitzeim nenuchanechoin ala kanfei hashchina, b'ma'alois kedoshim etohirim, kizoi yarareki amatirim es nishmas shloime ben Yisrael HaKohen, shehalach li'elamoi, ba'avur shanachnu mispalolim b'adaskares nishmasoi, Began Eden day menucha soilachim balarachamim yasireu b'seiser kanof of leilamim v'yitzroir b'tzirachayim es nishmasoi anino yunachalosoi v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavoi v'neimar amen. God, full of compassion, who dwells in high, grand, proper repose unto the sheltering wings of your presence, into the lofty levels of the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, onto the soul of Shloime ben Yisrael HaKohen, Steve Bernstein, for whose memory, who has gone to his world, and for whose memory we pray. May his repose be in the paradise, and may the Master of compassion bring him under the cover of God's wings, and bind his soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be his heritage, and may he repose in his resting place in peace. And let us say, Amen. The interment was going to be right over here in Beth Moses Cemetery, followed by the interment. Shiva will be observed in Gary and Esther's home today, starting from 2:30, and then tomorrow until 7 p.m., and then tomorrow at 10 a.m. until 7 p.m., and then Sunday through Tuesday from 10 to 7. Their addresses, 14 Polo Field Lane in Lake Success. Thank you.